All right, we're going to talk about recruiting and just kind of clear the air on some things that kids and parents, some questions that they might have in regards to recruiting, especially with football. Provision Academy, we have a plan for kids, we have a plan for families, we have a process to really help them navigate through that. We've been doing this for the last 8 years, and the landscape has changed, especially since when we played to now. When the kids, the 2030 class, the 2029 class, all those kids, it's changed a ton. And we've been educated on that change, and we do the best that we can to make sure that they're ready for that recruiting process.
There we go.
We're going to start off with our program director, Duke DiGaetano. All right, he just joined us this year, and he has an extensive background in not only as a player in college, but as a coach. So the first question for you is, when you were a coach and you're recruiting a player, what were some of the not only physical attributes you were looking for, but some of the characteristics of them as a person or as a student that you were looking at when you were recruiting a kid to see if they were going to be a good fit for your team?
Yeah. Great question. The first thing that comes to mind is, does the kid love ball? Like, if you don't love college football, it's going to be really hard to play college football. So with that, I mean, you can tell when you walk into a room, a kid that's engaged, like he's looking at you in the eye. He's asking questions. Like, you can tell pretty quickly if a kid loves ball or not, right? And that's actually a question that we'll just ask. Like, one of the first questions that I would ask is, hey man, do you love the game of football? And like, what do you love about football? Do you love just game day? Do you love practice? Do you love the weight room? Do you love your teammates? Like, if you don't love football, if we love football more than you do, it's going to be really hard. So I think the love of the game is the first thing that comes to mind. And then the other thing is, like you were mentioning, like academics is, there's going to be physical things that every single coach is going to be looking for. And it's going to depend on the level, right? So my background is I coached at Whitworth University, a Division III school. But Division III, Division II, Division I, right? There's going to be certain boxes that they're going to want kids to check off, whether it's height or weight or speed, right? And that's really going to change depending on the level. But I could say pretty confidently, even guys that I know in coaching college ball, the things they're going to look for is, are you a leader? Are you a leader for your team? Like, how are you as a student? How are you in the classroom, right? Like, it's pretty easy to turn it on just for the game of football because you love football, but are you consistent with who you are and your actions and your discipline in the classroom? Like, having anything under than a 3.0 is kind of a red flag for college coaches, right? Because at that point, it's, are you going to class?
No.
Are you just going to class and doing the work that's been given to you? You don't have to even be the smartest kid in class, but do your work, show up, right? And those are the things that college coaches are looking for. Yeah, and then just being the best leader for your team, right? So when guys talk about you, like, are they saying, yeah, that's a guy that, like, he's a great teammate. Like, he's my brother. He works really hard. So I'd say those are some of the things that we're looking off right off the bat. That's not even physical.
Yeah, and initially you're talking to the player, you're probably talking to the parents. When it comes to the parents, I know as a trainer at Provision Academy the last 8 years, all of us coaches have relationships with college coaches, and we've had coaches that have asked, like, hey, how are the parents? Is that something that you're looking at as well? Like you said, the coaches can't love it more than the kids.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like the parents might love it more than the kids.
100%.
Have you seen that in your recruiting process?
Yeah. And it's delicate, right? You don't want to take away the love that this parent has for watching their kid compete, right? It's awesome to see that support that they might have. But at the same time, if you're meeting with a parent and a kid, right, and the parent's asking more questions than the kid, it's a little bit like, well, man, we're not recruiting you necessarily. We're recruiting the kid. Like he's got to speak up, even if he's probably nervous as all heck.
Yeah.
Right. But that's what we want to hear, is we want to hear that kid talk through, man, well, what's your why? Like, why do you love football? Why do you want to play football at the next level? So yeah, obviously there's that piece. And I'd say the other thing with parents, like recruiting parents is actually a big thing. So Coach Sandberg was my head coach when I played college football, and the head coach that I worked for when I coached at Whitworth University. And one of the biggest things that really stood out to me in the recruiting process is he said that, parents do have to be involved in recruiting. He said, we're going to do things different at Whitworth. Like, you're going to call the parents. Like, not only are you communicating with the player who you're actively trying to get on your roster, you think he's a good fit, but he goes, I want you as coaches to talk to their parents and let them know, hey, these are the things that we see in your son, that we value in your son. So it's not this step back and not be involved at all as a parent. It's kind of that balance where, yeah, you're there to show support, but also letting the kid be recruited and not necessarily you be recruited.
Gotcha. So, I mean, you're kind of talking about the levels, Division I, Division II, Division III, and there's definitely boxes that you have to check at each one of those. And we talk about, at the Division I level, there's measurables probably with height, with weight, with speed, those type of things. And then, as it goes down the list, it might be some different things, like academics might be more important for one school than the other. So to finish up before I get over with Seth, if you could just give me in like 30 seconds, when you're recruiting a kid, what is one of the most important things? You gave me those lists, but when you're looking, like, how do you know?
Yeah. I'd say one of the things is he's got to love the weight room. So first off, like, if you're not training and you're not lifting and you're not a guy that is going to war in the weight room, it's going to be pretty hard to say, like, man, like, we really want you on this team, because that's a huge part of college football is the weight room. And we all know that. Like, that's one of the things that we all at Provision love, is the weight room. So being a weight room guy, and man, the other thing, I'm just going to keep coming back to it. It's just like this genuine love for the game. Yeah. Right. Like, if you're not trying, if you're trying so hard to just show like the glamour of football, right? Like, coaches are going to weed through that. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter the uniform that you're wearing or the drip that you have. It's like, man, do you work hard? Do you show up every day? Are you consistent? Are you disciplined enough to say no to things that aren't going to get you to where you need to be, and say yes to the things that are going to lead to your goals and then the goals of your team?
I think that's universal across every single division of football too. So that's a great point. Okay. Right next to you, we got an All-American, Coeur d'Alene Viking. Yep. In high school. Eastern Washington Eagle, go Eags. Go Eags. And has absolutely transformed the kicking, punting, long snapping specialist game in this area. And I would say in the Northwest, and I would even say across the country, with some of the camps that you've been starting up and doing. So the recruiting process is going to be different for specialists than it is for, a quarterback or a D lineman. So just give me a couple just differences right off the bat that you can think of when it comes to that.
Well, it happens way later. The process is way later. Like, colleges are not looking at freshmen and sophomores in high school right now, unless you are kicking like you're a freshman in college as a freshman or sophomore in high school. So happens way later. So the first 2 years of high school, really get your strength up, get your technique going, because you got to build a great foundation of your technique and your swing so that you can build off that. Because a lot of these kids come from soccer backgrounds. And kicking a soccer ball is a lot different than kicking a football. They're really like complete opposite swings. You're swinging down on a soccer ball, you're swinging up on a football. So getting that swing added to your bag, like still play soccer if you love soccer, still play other sports. But if you want to be a college kicker, you have to set the foundation first.
Is the weight room important, just like Coach Duke said, as far as kicking? And
I'd say the weight room's almost more important than your technique, especially when you're younger. Like, you have to be very, very strong to be a kicker. You have to have a ton of balance. You have to have a ton of coordination, core. Like, the weight room is one of the most important things of being a great kicker, and that's why I have started the kicker weight room lifts. Like, we call it the war room. They have to go to war just like everybody else on the team.
You lift?
I lifted in college.
Okay.
In
All
college.
right.
I went into college 150 pounds. So I was lucky that, a little bigger now, but I was lucky to be able to develop for a full year and sit behind a great kicker and see what he did well and what made him successful. And I remember the biggest thing that made him successful in his last year, which he was perfect, All-American, all that, was the weight room. He never bought in until the last couple of years, and that's when he saw those real jumps. And so, yes, the weight room is so important for these kickers.
what if you're not a soccer player? Let's say you're like a receiver or, maybe a defensive back or something like that, but you want to get into it.
Yeah.
We've seen in our weight room, there's a lot of guys, they're pretty built, tall, big, look like they could play, maybe D1 defensive end, and they're over there, swinging at the net with Coach Harry. Is it just because, is it something that you've created, or is that just kind of the way things are moving, where you don't just have to be a soccer player, you can be an athlete and be a kicker, punter, long snapper?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a soccer player. I stopped playing in fourth grade. So I was, I guess, that athlete. I was a lacrosse guy, a football guy. And so, yeah, you don't need to be a soccer player. You do have to have good foot, mind coordination for sure, and flexibility. Huge thing. The yoga mat and the yoga room is one of the most important things as well, on top of weight room and technique. Like, you have to be flexible. You have to be strong in that flexibility, because if you can't get your leg above your waist, you're capped at how good of a kicker you can be.
Too.
Yeah, mobility, flexibility, like your hips got to be mobile, they got to be strong. And I think there's a misconception of like being flexible in your hips and not strong in your hips.
Yeah.
Like, you could do the splits, but if you can't do some isometric holds without getting real weak in your hips, you're going to get injured. Your hips, your back, like, you're going to get thrashed up. And so that's why in the weight room, we hit the hip flexors, we hit the groin. Like, those have to be really strong as well.
And that's, just a reason right there, because I just learned something new doing this, and that's why if you're an athlete, you can go out in the field and do things on your own. But when you have somebody that's been there before, that is really pouring a lot of time into finding out exactly, how to help these kids with their craft and in the weight room. That's why it's so important to have great people like you guys that are teaching them and coaching them up. I want to get back to the recruiting part of it, though.
Yeah.
And some of the things that we've seen, I'm not really asking any questions. I'm kind of just going over an observation that we've had as coaches, but there's a lot of hype with stars, and there's a lot of hype with exposure in the off season, where when you really break it down, coaches are looking at, are you getting stronger and faster in the off season? When you come to their camp in the summer, all right, how are you performing in the drills? How are you performing in the competitions? All right, how do you look with pads on? Okay, and then in the fall, can you put it all together and be a dude out there on the field? Really, when you break it down to recruiting, that's how it is. And like you said, maybe you're taller, maybe you're a little bigger, faster. That kind of separates you. But the things that that take no talent as far as, the work ethic part of it and the discipline and creating great habits. Those are the things that are going to separate you from maybe those guys that have better measurables. And I also, that's why 8 years ago we started the Spokane Showcase with your old coach, Coach Sandberg, and that coaching staff, as a chance for all the coaches in the region from Division I to 2 to 3 to NAIA and junior college to come out and watch the kids in our region perform and showcase their skills for one day. And they don't have to travel to Seattle. They don't have to travel to Portland, travel to, California. They can do it right there in their backyard. So that's what we're going to finish with.
I'll add some stuff before we go, though. Just
Coach Harry, let's hear it.
Yeah, let's hear it, Seth.
So I talked about the beginning stages of kicking the first 2 years. The second 2 years are just as important. Like when you're a senior, say you want to go D1, right? Because everybody wants to go D1. Okay, you have to be able to compete with the guys that are on that roster right now. It used to be, okay, they're going to stagger their guys, and every 2 years they're going to take a kicker, and every 2 years they're going to take a punter and snapper. But now with the portal, and then also with the roster cuts down to 105, who gets the short end of the stick? Specialists, right?
Yeah.
So instead of holding 9 guys in the room, 3 at each position, they're holding 6 or even 4. So, great example, Eastern Washington. They have a senior kicker right now. Last year they had a true freshman kicking off for them, and they had a punter. So they had about 4 or 5 guys in the room, and their kickoff guy left, right? And instead of bringing a high school guy in, first they look for the portal because they need a guy to play right now.
Yep.
And they didn't find a guy in the portal that they wanted to bring in. So they brought in a high school guy that for sure could kick off for them for their season.
Makes sense.
So as a senior in high school, if you want to go play D1 football, like you got to be ready to play right away. And how do you play right away? You're working with a kicking coach. You're in the weight room. Your grades are really good. And you're a great teammate. You're not the kicker off on the side all practice or leaving practice early. You're at practice. You're involved. You're watching one-on-ones. You're involved with the guys. You're in the weight room challenging the linebackers, challenging the running backs, challenging the skill guys. Like, I'm lifting with you. We're part of the team, right? So that's how you get in the door and play at a high level right away.
And that's a stereotype that Provision Academy has been breaking over the last 4 years since you started the specialist program there. And it's pretty impressive to watch. If you guys want to know anything more about recruiting, the process, the Spokane Showcase, provisionacademy.com, and we'll have all the answers for you.